Hello, everyone. I'm going to start explaining the summary of the Discover Canada book, which should help you to prepare yourself for the citizenship exam. So the summary is about 15 slides. I'm just trying to focus on the most important points based on the questions I saw online and I saw during the exam and during my review. Also, you can buy the summary PDF file if you would like to just add notes, if you would like to work on the PDF itself. So you can find the link below the video. And if you buy the summary, you can have 1 hour live session with me if you have any questions or more explanation needed for the summary. Anyways, you don't need to buy the summary, because if you just follow up the slides and you see the videos for 2 or 3 times, I think the information will stick on your mind. The exam is quite easy. You don't have to memorize. It is just multiple choice questions. You have 20 questions. You have to answer at least 15 correctly. So actually, the answer in front of you, so if you just read the book for once. So what you have to do is just to read the Discover Summary book at least once. Then you can focus on this summary, and if you see the videos for 2 or 3 times, the information will stick in your mind, and when you see the question in the exam, you will just know the answer. So we are going to start with the first thing in the book, which is the oath of citizenship. And the oath is just what you are going to say when you get your last step, when you have your ceremony, and then you have to reply and repeat the oath with the judge. So normally when we have something like this, like the oath or any anthems, like the royal anthem or the national anthem or anything, you don't have to memorize it. You just need to know the first 2 lines and the last line. So sometimes you will have a questions. So the oath start with, and then you have options, and it will ask for the first 2 lines, or it will say the oath end with, and you will have to memorize, just remember the last line. So the first 2 lines here, so the first 2 lines here in the oath is, I swear or affirm that I will be faithful. I will be faithful to whom? That's what we're going to know. So normally you have to know that we are faithful to the king or the queen, the current king or the queen of England, which is at the current time, it will be His Majesty King Charles III. King Charles III, okay? And the last line will be, and fulfill my duties as a Canadian citizen, and fulfill my duties as a Canadian citizen. Okay, this will be the last line that you have to remember. And in general, the oath, just try to confirm 3 things. First thing, that you make a swear that you will be faithful to the king or the queen of England. Second thing is to be that you're going to fulfill your duties as a Canadian citizen. Whenever you have the citizenship, you need to follow your duties. And the third thing, which is I cut here just for the space, is just you're going to respect the Canadian law. For sure, respect the law. So if you are a Canadian citizen, you must respect the law. It's very important. So these are 3 things you have to know about the oath. Okay, so in Canada, we don't like, our loyalty is not to the land, not to the flag, not to the country itself. So we are not loyal to those stuff, because this stuff can be changed. But we are loyal. Our loyalty is to a person, and this person will be the sovereign, which will be the current king or the queen of England. And why we provide our loyalty to the person? Because this person is just a symbol. It represents all Canadians, and we provide our loyalty to this person, which will be the current king or queen of England, who represent all Canadians. So we don't provide our loyalty to a document, which is the Constitution, for example, or a flag, like our flag. No, the flag can be changed at any time, or even the country, because we don't like, our loyalty is to a person. This is actually how Canada works, or how it works in Canada. Okay, and there is also 3 important information about Canada. We are just going to list them here as points, but we are going to explain this in details later on in other videos. So the first fact is, Canada is a constitutional monarchy. Monarchy means it has a king or a queen, like as we said, the head of the state or the head of the country will be the current king or the current queen of England. And but actually, this king or queen is not a dictator. It works actually, or it rules the country. He rules the country based on the constitution, which is the document which have all the Canadian laws. So he follows the constitution to rule the country, and he don't just rule from his mind or based on his personal sites or personal thoughts. Okay. The same thing, which is the second fact, which will have the same meaning, that Canada is a parliamentary democracy country. So it is a democratic country. It is not a dictatorial country. So a democratic country based on what? Based on the parliament. So the parliament as a set of people which are elected by the Canadians, and they are like those people are setting the laws which will be followed by the king or the queen to rule the country. Okay. The third fact, well, actually, we are going to explain all this information in details later. Third fact that Canada is a federal state, so it is a very big country. So it has a special type of government which is called federal government, which we have top-level government, and for each province we have a small government, sub-government for the province. So that's why we say it is a federal state. So it is we have the federal government on level, and then we have smaller level government on the province level, and we are going to explain this in details when we speak about the Canadian government. Okay, this is the first part of the book. Second part, we're just saying what you have to do if you are going to apply for citizenship. You have for sure to submit your application, and the official will need to check your status and to make sure that you are not prohibited for any reason to get the citizenship, and that you are meet all requirements. What they mean here by requirements? There are many requirements. For example, language requirement. For example, stay period in Canada. How long you stayed in Canada before you apply. All this information will be reviewed by the officer, and the officer will determine your status and say if you are allowed to get the citizenship or not. If you pass this step, you will get a notification that you are okay, and you need to make a written exam or a written test, and this test will we explaining what you have to do to prepare yourself for this test. This test can be written or oral, or like through an interview. So if you fail for the first time and if you fail for the second time, then you will go to the third time for an interview with the officer. So it will be oral. So I hope no one will do this. You should be able to pass from the first try, so don't worry about it. If you have any problem in your application, the officer need to contact you just to ask for more information, to ask for a new document, to confirm something with you. So you have to keep your address up to date with the officer and with CIC, the immigration office. So every time you move to another place during the time you're applying for citizenship, you have to call the CIC office and update your address. This is very important. It is not only the mailing address, like your home address, but also your email address. Like if you have any problem with your email, for example, you started your application with a school email address, and then you left the school, so the email is not active anymore. So you have to update your citizenship application with a new email, because most of the communication is done through the email address. So as advice, please try to use an email address like a personal email address. Don't use a school email address or a job email address, because they can be closed at any time. But just create a personal email on Gmail or Hotmail or anything, and just use for your application. Okay. So the main idea of the test, or the main goal of the test, to test your knowledge about Canada in general, about Canada. So some information about Canada, like history of Canada, geography of Canada, government system, election system, all this information about Canada. It also helps to test your information about the rights and responsibilities of a citizenship. So what you have to do when you become a Canadian. So you have some rights and you have some responsibilities. So you just test if you know this or not. And for sure, it's try to test your knowledge about the language. So even English or French. So you can take the exam in English or take the exam of French, but at least you must be able to communicate in one of these two languages. For sure, the exam will be required if you are between 18 and 53. So if you are less than 18 years old or older than 53 years old, you are not required to make this test exam, or even the English exam. You are not required to give any requirements about your language. Okay. So what happens after the test? So if I hope you will pass the test from the first try, and then after the test, you will receive something called a notice to appear to take the oath of citizenship. So normally this notice will tell you the time and the place of the ceremony. Sometimes the ceremony will be online, sometimes it will be in person. If it be in person, the notice will tell you the time and date, date and time and the location. If it is online, it will be date and time and the link to the Zoom video, which will use to attend the ceremony. And during the ceremony, you will take the oath. You will take this oath with the judge, and then you will sign the oath form. You have to sign the oath form. And after that, you will be a Canadian citizen and you will receive your Canadian citizenship certificate. So the Canadian citizenship certificate is not the final step. So this is the final step to be a Canadian, but you are going to use a certificate to apply for the Canadian passport. So you can travel outside Canada and come back easily through the Canadian passport. Okay. So the last thing we're going to speak about it today, the source of Canadian law. What is the source of the Canadian law? Just you don't need to memorize. Just make sure that you understand what's going on. So actually, Canada was a land. It has some original people, and then some people from Europe came to Canada. Came from two countries, which are England and France. And we are going to speak about this when we speak about the history. So it is very natural that you can see that the people came from England and France. When you try to make a law, they are going to use their own law. So the main source of Canadian law will come first from the English common law, which is law of England, the first country, England. So it's called English common law. And then the second country will be the civil code of France, which is law of France. So that's nature. This is nature. So they will just start to use the laws they have already used in their own country, like the English law, which is called English common law, and try to remember the name, because sometimes in the multiple choice it will say English code law. No, it is English common law, and code law of France would be civil code of France. And then the people settle down. They have a new country, and they try to also get new laws. It's the laws which actually will be like based on what we have now at this time to match what the lifestyle in Canada. So they have some institution to construct or to build the new laws, and this constitution are the parliament and the provincial legislatures. So on the province level, you have a legislature assembly which set the laws for the province, and on the federal level, we have the parliament, which is elected by Canadians, which also will try to set the laws which will be applied on the overall country. So we are going to discuss this later about the parliament and the provincial laws and all the stuff. But today we are done for today. Next time we're going to speak about the rights of citizenship and the responsibilities of citizenship. So see you next time, and goodbye.